Hey, what's going on guys? Broken Machine here with a simple and easy guide to flying helicopters in Battlefield 6 just like this. Do appreciate the comments over on Shorts and TikTok on my smooth flying techniques. Hopefully you'll find this guide will help you fly like this too and be just as helpful as the other tutorials here on the channel. This one's mainly for controller players, but instructions will be clear, so do follow along if you're on a different platform or using a custom control scheme. Head on over to Portal, click Server Browser, move to Experiences at the top with L1, scroll down to Experience, and to enter ZUK P7. Click that box, click Host, scroll down, set password, click Host, done. Welcome to today's test range. That's the hardest part over. Do be sure to change your class to Engineer, click the HQ spawn top left, and here are the vehicles you'll be learning in. We'll start with the very basics here and then move on to more advanced maneuvers. First, let's set up the heli controls for easy use. Press pause, options, controller, edit settings, scroll down to helicopter, control settings edit, turn off control assist, and max out the field of view, so you can see more clearly around the helicopters. Back out, set heli buttons to alternate and legacy below here, click edit on control mapping, and flip fire with R1 and zoom with L1. Similar to how I set up infantry. You can use a totally custom control scheme if you wish and follow along with my instructions, but again this is designed to be as simple as possible. The first lesson, hovering the heli. Get in the transport helicopter, wait for it to fire up, simply hold R2 and then let go. Mission accomplished, you've managed to fly a helicopter. Now hold L2 and you'll come slamming down. Not to worry, this heli can take a beating. Practice this a few times until you feel comfortable, and now we're gonna go for a smoother landing. If at any point in this tutorial you crash the heli or need to destroy it, they will respawn back at the base. So R2 throttle up once again, get a little height, slam L2 throttle down, let go before you hit the ground, and slam R2. Let go once it levels. Rinse and repeat, and you've got yourself a pretty solid landing, and ready to pick up those AFK melons back in spawn. Lesson 2, flying forward and braking. R2 throttle up, get some height and simply push forward on the right stick while holding R2 throttle up. Not too crazy of an angle here. Keep the horizon similar to mine and pull back on the right analog while letting go of R2 throttle up, and you should come to a stop. Try that a few times until it feels natural. Pulling back on the right stick too harshly will set you off into reverse and most likely crash. Ease into it, and that is essentially how you brake and slow down a helicopter. Lesson 3. Do a 180. Do exactly as the previous lesson, but now once you've slowed down and come to a stop, push the right analog left or right to do a 180. Do be sure to let go just a little bit before the complete turn, and there you go. A basic turn complete, congratulations. Next up, lesson 4, basic cornering. Rather than get too complicated, let's keep it simple. Bring the heli up once again with R2 throttle, push forward on the right stick and R2 held, and get into motion once again. Now for the first turn, simply push slightly left on the right analog while still pushing forward. Just ever so slightly left, and there you go, that's your first basic turn complete. Keep it going, rinse and repeat, and once you're comfortable, level the heli once again and try doing it on the right side as well. Rinse and repeat until it feels natural. Like we said earlier, unlike the little birds, this heli can take a beating, but do keep it lower if you find yourself constantly crashing. To avoid a crash, try your best to level the helicopter, but if that goes wrong, simply let go of the controls and let the heli bounce and level itself. It's very good to learn this now, as many pilots panic and slam the throttles, often flipping the heli over in the process. Also, it's good to feather the throttles. Just tapping them a little is the best technique. Lesson 6, advanced cornering. We got the cornering basics down, now let's introduce the left stick into the equation. Fly on up, like before, push forward as before, and while in motion, have a play with going left on the left analog, and then going right. Tap it, let go. Same with the throttle. Don't be too harsh on the sticks here. It's kind of like a bicycle really, leaning left and right, that's all. With some height we can do a barrel roll, but we'll talk about that later on. Again, try this going back and forth on this runway if you can, and have a go. Do it until it feels kind of natural, and you've got the gist of it. So with cornering, it's exactly the same again. Bring the heli up with R2 throttle, push forward on the right stick with R2 held, and get into motion once again. Now for the first turn, simply push slightly left on the right analog while still pushing forward. At the same time, push left on the left analog stick ever so slightly, and you'll start to see a much tighter turn. Do ease off if you find the heli start to flip. Again, easy on the controls. Get a decent amount of height, rinse and repeat with both turns to the left and right until you get the hang of it. So as you're doing this, try and have a play with the right stick a little bit more, and then the left stick a little bit more, and you'll start to get a feel for how the helicopters actually really turn. Let me know down below if you're having trouble with this, but it should you should kind of feel it. I mean, that's what it's all about with the helicopters. You've got to kind of feel it. Lesson 7, Advanced Maneuvers. So once we're a little more comfortable in the transport helis, it's time to up the difficulty. The attack heli is a little harder, but kind of similar. But the Little Bird is what we really need. It's a little more unforgiving, but way more nimble, and most importantly, deadly. So if you can practice in this and get it right, you can fly anything. So I'd like you to follow the lessons we have done earlier, again in this helicopter, while keeping the following in mind. Personally, I find it's easier to understand flying helicopters if you think of them more like drifting than racing in an F1 car. So try flying around these structures on the map. Lots of feathering the throttle, and when in doubt, go flat out. Don't try to be too precise, kind of drift it around these structures. So try going around the wall here, left and right, around the structure, and through this object over here too. This is exactly how I fly and how I think about it. Kind of like bobbing and weaving as well, and a lot of drifting. So I've given you the basics here, some advanced stuff. The rest here is really on you. You gotta feel it. You learn by doing it. You can read and watch as many tutorials and videos here on YouTube, but at this point, just do the thing. If you crash, whatever, respawn, get back in, and keep going. Again, if you find it too complicated, go back to the beginning and just get a feel for it. Now this is all good, but there is going to be many opponents on the battlefield, so on to the next lesson. Lesson 8, Countering. So we selected the engineer earlier, so if at any point we do take too much damage, we can land and heal up pretty quickly. Unfortunately, if you don't have anyone with you and you're a different class, you can't heal up the heli, you just gotta wait for it to repair itself. So anyway, there is two main counters to opponents. One is staying below radar. Look in the bottom left here. Certain heights you can avoid lock-on missiles. You see this pop up, you're fine. If you don't, you're probably gonna get locked on. That's the basic gist of it. Obviously, you've got to go in game and get a feel for it. Secondly, use your flares. Listen carefully. Hear this sound. Wait. Fire flares. I did ask you earlier to fly around structures to get a good feel for the heli and what is essentially you need to be doing to avoid getting hit. That is really going to be helpful later on. So, lesson 9, attacking opponents. Let's keep it simple. Depending on your setup, you'll have access to machine guns or rockets of some kind. The crosshair in the center is not where your aim is. It's this one slightly below, bouncing around here. Keep the enemy in the center of this, and the machine gun will be deadly. Infantry is fairly straightforward, and there is a section on this test range where you can practice against them. For groups of enemies, the machine gun is enough. Do be sure to switch your rockets if you run out of ammo. Now the rockets have these shapes on screen here. The projectile will hit the center of the eye. The tow missile is guided by you, the pilot. Just like the AT rockets on infantry I absolutely love, you just gotta get on this and learn how to use it. You only learn this one by doing it, so get in a match and give it a go. When fighting opposing teams' air support, you'll need to aim a little further ahead if they're not stationary, just like you would with a sniper rifle. For vehicles, you tend to want to keep as much of a large area of them inside the crosshair as possible, and only go for the pilot if it makes sense. Gunners on transport are your main concern. On opposing little birds, it will be the pilot themselves, but if they're not facing you, do be sure to slam the large section of the vehicle. Jets are pretty straightforward. Don't hover. I mean, that's a big strategy in itself. Try not to hover as much as possible. You're going to be a massive target, especially if you're in a 1v1 versus another heli. Often people make the mistake of just hovering or flying high and then they get blasted. It's okay to back off just like infantry and then attack from a different angle or heal up and come back later. Lock-ons can make battles that much easier. Wait for the enemy to flare and then proceed to fire. Common tactic is to do just that and then attack aggressively. Machine guns won't do much, if anything, to certain vehicles, so use your rockets or lock-ons. Avoid the anti-air vehicles as much as possible, as they will destroy you very quickly. Doing well in a vehicle isn't all about your flying techniques, very much about keeping track of which vehicle your opponents have and where. On the latest new map Sorrel Reef, there is only one little bird at the moment, so your strongest opponents will be boats, lock-ons, and the gunners on the transport helicopters. One of the best strategies I like to implement is trying to go on what we call runs. So you get in a heli, look at the big map, see what's going on, and try to focus on the biggest threats first. Often on this channel, I've talked about a thing called threat level. So with infantry, if you've got a sniper in the background and a guy up close with a shotgun, the threat level determines the guy with the shotgun is the biggest threat. Go for them first. If the sniper is going to hit you, they're going to hit you. That's just tough. Same applies for the vehicles. If someone's closer to you, they are a bigger threat. Or if they've got something in their arsenal which is a little bit more tricky to deal with, like lock-ons, maybe back off first and come back, maybe fight them first. You've got to make that decision when you're in the game. But basically, the enemy that can take you out the easiest is probably the biggest threat. So talking about runs, do avoid heading too far into the enemy side of the map. You will meet an AA in their spawn, which will obliterate you, and do be sure to use as much of the map to cover and conceal yourself as possible. The little birds are best at being aggressive, while attack heli pilots tend to stick mid-range and target enemies from afar. While in the attack heli, if you have no co-pilot, you can press X and switch to the gunner seat and fire at additional targets while your main weaponry replenishes. You could set your squad to private so no one can spawn on you, but the server will find that absolutely despicable. Depending on the playstyle you prefer, you can adjust your weaponry for the vehicles in the main menu. Personally, I prefer the minigun, light rockets, and stabilizer on the scout helis, motion sensor too. Rockets on the attack depend on who you tend to be fighting the most. Definitely recommend the aim-guided missile. Of course, you can tweak the helicopter controls even further. Personally, I leave most of these on default values. Yep, that's right. I think this works for me. And I do have acceleration over here. You can turn that off to get more kind of one-to-one aiming, but I kind of like the way the Helis feels. So my advice is stick with my settings, and then if you're really experienced with the game, do change them. But honestly, I think the helicopters feel just fine as they are. And that's pretty much my guide. Of course, we could go into a little bit more detail on some of these things, but I think this covers the basics. And this guide is pretty much trying to get people in the air and just trying to get people learning how to use the helicopters as fast and as simply and easily as possible. Do be sure to let me know your thoughts down below and let me know if you've got any questions. New settings and more tutorials are linked below as well. Here are some more portal codes so you can jump in on other maps and have a good time practicing the helicopters. Appreciate you checking out this video, guys. Do be sure to drop a like on your way out. Take it easy, guys. I'll see you soon. Catch you later.